Their Wi-Fi is suspect. Hey y'all, we are traveling, so come with me for a second. Hopefully my staff is on as well as I'm looking at them. Okay, so we gonna talk about a couple of things, and don't be judging me because I got glasses on in the building. Y'all, I is tired. Okay, all right. So a couple of things I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the big BS bill. And I want to talk to you about the briefing that still has not taken place. So first, I will start with the briefing. So basically, we know that, you know who, your drunk uncle, was given a press briefing about the war, but we still haven't had our briefing with Congress, not like we don't matter. I don't know, whatever. So we are supposedly going to have our briefing tomorrow morning. We will see. I feel like anything that we gonna learn, we probably would have already learned it, because y'all know he not good at holding secrets. Okay, so that's number one. Then we have this bill nonsense. So they have come up with this artificial deadline of the 4th of July to get this passed. And of course the House passed their terrible version by one vote. And now the Senate is working on making it even worse, which I am so shocked and disappointed with the Senate, because while I usually expect the Senate to do Senate things, the Senate is actually more moderate. So I expected the Senate to actually fix what the Republicans ended up doing, but in the House. But clearly that's probably not where we're going. So as they're fighting right now, at least we have a parliamentarian that still believes in some semblance of rules, and the parliamentarian has overruled some of the portions of the bill that they really wanted. Some of the worst portions of the bill, like the parliamentarian was like, nope, that doesn't work. So that's good news, kinda, but it takes them back to the drawing board. So we were supposed to be on recess coming up next week. So we've been told that we're going to be on call because we're potentially going to have to come back whenever the Senate is done. I don't know when the Senate is going to get done. They're telling us, before they told us that we may have to stay the weekend. Now they've told us that we won't necessarily have to stay the weekend, but instead we need to be prepared to be back as early as Monday. So who knows? So don't get mad at your rep if they're supposed to be in district doing something next week, because we may have to sit here on pins and needles not knowing when it is that we're going to vote here in DC. So with that being said, I'm going to take a few questions. My staff is on. So Sierra going to tell me the questions.
Why is the bill bad?
Why is the bill bad? Okay, well that's good. Okay. I got a long list of reasons. The biggest reason is this. So there are people that believe like, oh, well, I'm not on Medicaid, so it don't matter. First of all, you may not necessarily know that you are on Medicaid. That's number one. Because it's called different things in different states. So I want y'all to know that. Number two, let me tell you something. If they start to, I don't want my phone to connect. Make sure my phone doesn't connect, because they may not be able to hear me. If they decide that they're going to play with the healthcare funding, what will happen is, let's say there was a hospital in your area, and that hospital was getting, say, 25% of its budget because it was taken in those funds. Chances are that hospital, number one, may shut down. And so while you're like, oh, it don't affect me because I don't take Medicaid, well, that hospital may end up shutting down. All right, so you got to understand that. So there are hospitals that are going to shutter. I will tell you that a lot of those hospitals that are going to shutter, for the most part, it is going to be in rural America. The reason that rural America is going to struggle even more than urban America is because they don't have the additional kind of people coming in to supplement and support the hospitals in general. In addition to that, even if you don't have Medicaid, chances are your premiums and the cost of your healthcare is going to go up again because this money is being sucked out. So that's number one. So everybody should care. Not to mention, it's some crazy number that's like close to 60% of babies that are born in this country. It's Medicaid that actually brings those babies in. Like, that's how they're born. So you got that part. Number two, the other really, really big part of this has to do with SNAP benefits and people's ability to eat. So I'm not saying that like you get a lot of money in general when it comes to SNAP benefits, but the point is there's a lot of people that are already struggling, and they're going to struggle more because of this terrible economy that was self-induced to be terrible by this administration. And so not only is it that people are going to miss out on the money that they need to feed themselves and their families, but you have to think about those farmers as well. As you guys have seen a lot of videos and things like SNAP benefits, it goes through the entire like cycle. You have to think about this. If you pull out hundreds of billions of dollars from those that are buying food, right, that money isn't going to automatically be replaced. So you have farmers that are going to struggle, as well as you're going to have grocery stores. So if you already don't have a grocery store in your area, chances are you're probably not going to get one anytime soon, because all of that money is a part of the ecosystem. And just because you don't give the money to the people, it doesn't reappear some other way, right? So that's yet another really big bad thing about the bill. Those are like the two biggest worst parts of it. Those are the things that we have kind of reiterated, but you're talking about a bill that is hundreds of pages. So I can tell you some of the other things that I personally don't like is that they have reduced the protections for federal workers in this bill. By reducing those protections, they are making it easier to fire people from the federal government. As you saw, this administration was consistently losing in court when they were going out and they had, decided to fire people. And the reason that this matters, regardless of what you think about federal workers are the ones that are going to have to answer that call when you're trying to get your IRS check, when you're trying to get your Social Security, when you're trying to get your housing benefits, or whatever it is that you are trying to get. Same thing with like our veterans, right? Like, who is it that is going to be there to service our veterans? So we need those protections for our federal workers. And that was the only reason that they were able to win in court against this administration. So they are weakening our federal government as they tried to shut down the Department of Education by firing everybody. And then they were like, no, you need congressional action. So if you don't have congressional action, then just don't worry about it. Like, they decided, well, never mind, we're just going to fire everybody. So they're doing that. They also are trying to make it a lot more difficult for anybody that wants to go against a rogue administration like this to actually be able to wage their case in court. So they don't want you to be able to file your case unless you put up a certain level of bond. Remember, he had all them problems getting his bond together when he was trying to do his appeal. Well, they want you to put money together, and normally you don't have to do that when you're going after the federal government, because chances are when you're going after the federal government, you're not really seeking a bunch of money. What you're seeking is like for them to stop. Like, it's been a bunch of like TROs or like a restraining order, or you're trying to get reinstated for something, or you're trying to like swipe down some stupid executive order that he has made. So like, it really is kind of unfair. It's unfair for a lot of reasons, but all they're trying to do is minimize people's access to the courts, because at least the courts got a backbone and they're actually standing up, unlike congressional Republicans, both in the House and the Senate. Some of the other things is that, we've seen ICE go through and do all nonsensical things, harming people on all levels, from a U.S. senator all the way down to your local landscaper or whoever it is that was on their job that they decided to go after at their jobs. They are now wanting to give additional money over to DHS for the purpose of ICE agents. And definitely one space that I've consistently reiterated is that they want to give them up to like $42,000 a year in a bonus, like for a bonus, at a time in which they are cutting everything out. And then let me just make this final big point, because there's just so much in this bill again. Another really bad part is that they say that they're making all these cuts because they're saying that we're in debt, which I'm not saying that we're not in debt, but our credit rating has already been downgraded because he decided he wanted to play Russian roulette with our market. Okay, so we got downgraded. So just pretend that we had a 700 credit score and now it's looking more like 550. So when you go from a 700 down to 550, y'all already know the interest rates are going to be higher. Okay, so we already have all this debt that's posted up. Now every time we borrow $1, it's going to be more expensive because he decided he wanted to play with the market. So they downgraded our credit rating. But on top of that, they have decided in this bill that while they are cutting everything from people that really need it, and it's ultimately going to cause a ripple effect and impact everybody. Even if you aren't directly impacted, you will be indirectly impacted. They also decided, well, we also want to run the credit card and go into further debt. So the far right Republicans that aren't on board, they're not on board because they're like, yo, you still want to run up the credit card. And then the rest of us are like, well, this is just cruel. Also, you can give big tax cuts to your homies. Like, that's basically what it boils down to. All right, one more question and then I'll jump on.
What happens next? Does it take effect immediately?
Well, it's got to, first of all, it's got to pass the Senate, it's got to pass the House, and then it's got to actually be signed into law. And basically, it's hard for me to tell you when anything's going to happen because the implementation of different portions of the bill will be laid out in the language of the bill once we get it. So I have no idea. So they all may have different times that different things are going to be implemented, but I won't know till we get the text of the bill. So sorry about that. Yeah, I'll do one more.
What are they doing with the money that they're cutting? Where are they putting it?
So the money that they're cutting is so that they can give tax cuts to very wealthy people. That's it. So this is the way that, the government works, the purse works, or whatever, is very simple. It is a matter of money in, money out, right? So we get income, and they have decided that they want to reduce our income overall. So instead of us getting the income, and our income is already reduced, I just want to be clear. So as everything is going up and everything is more expensive, and most of this is because of Donald Trump and his terrible business sense or lack thereof, everything is more expensive. So in a time in which prices are rising for food, prices are rising for housing, prices are rising for anything that we buy, mostly because of him, okay, they're saying, you know what, we actually want to spend less money, which is fine. But they also have decided we're going to take in less money. So just imagine you have a job that you're getting $100,000 a year at, and you decide that you want to take a pay cut and want to make about $50,000 a year. And you do this all when everything else around you is going up, all of your other costs. It doesn't make good sense, but that is what they decided to do, that they want to take a pay cut. And while they're taking this pay cut, they're also like, well, anything that I can't pay for, I'm going to just put it on a credit card. That's essentially what they've decided.
They want to talk about the Supreme Court and why they're making some of the decisions that they're making.
Now, that's $1 million question. Did y'all hear that? She said that y'all want to talk about the Supreme Court and why they're making some of the decisions that they're making. I cannot, I have a lot of thoughts. Y'all know that this Supreme Court is not a Supreme Court that I care for. And it's not even me being partisan. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The makeup of Supreme Courts have always been kind of all over the place. And that kind of is one of the beauties of just our courts in general, whether we're talking about the trial court level or whether we're talking about the appellate court levels, is that it's all mixed up. It's all different kinds of people. And just to be clear, on the trial court level, for the most part, no matter if the people were appointed by Democrats or Republicans, they are ruling against Trump like hand over fist, like coming together, like nope, because all he do is violate the law, right? But this Supreme Court is a little unique, and they stretch the limits. It's like the fact that they decided to give him this level of immunity that no other president or presidential candidate has ever sought, right? It just so happens that the one that ultimately would be convicted of 34 felonies was like the one that was like, I need immunity to go out here and, act a fool, right? And they gave it to him. And so, that was really our first sign that there were cracks in the foundation of our democracy, is when they decided to do that. And he really expects them to kind of just rule. If he appointed you, he expects you to rule in his favor. Like, he's pretty transparent about it. Like, he makes it very clear. And so, while I have been shocked that some of these justices have decided to buck the system and like rule against him and do what's right, as a trained attorney who historically has been able to rely upon court precedents and make your case and know that you can cite to certain things, it's been kind of frustrating to like see them kind of bend over and do what was wrong. But some of these people, they are just extremists themselves. And if you have certain biases, you're supposed to recuse yourself. And as soon as a bias comes in, they jump at the opportunity to basically go ahead and avail themselves of biases. And that's what we're seeing, is that they have their own personal agenda, and that's not really how the law is supposed to work. Like, that's when you lose kind of the blind justice side of this. You're supposed to have this kind of neutral mindset, and then advocates are supposed to come in and they are supposed to argue, and whoever makes the best argument based upon law, etc., that is who should win based on law and logic. And right now we missing both of them. Yeah.
You gotta run.
Oh, they're saying I gotta go. Okay, thanks y'all.